Wow, what a difference just a few months and a few movies can make. Because as you're about to see, my list of the best movies of 2018 has changed dramatically since just June. And it's not just the simple fact that more movies came out and I needed to make room for them, but some of the movies that came out made me feel differently about the movies that I'd just recently seen. But before we get to my list, I want to hear your list of not just the best movies of 2018, but also which ones you feel are the worst. And you can do that not only by commenting down below, but by voting in Beyond the Trailer's annual poll. The link is down below in the video description, and I'm giving you till January 4th to vote so that you can do your best to see all the movies in this snowstorm that we've gotten this year. And then, of course, you can stay tuned right here to Beyond the Trailer to see the results. All right, so again, my top 10 movies of 2018. Number 10. Avengers Infinity War. Hey, at least it made the list. I'm sure many of you are devastated that this is number 10. But look, let me explain. I had a great time watching Avengers Infinity War. In fact, it's an experience I shall never forget. The gasps when Captain America showed up. The gasps again when Tony Stark was run through by Thanos. And I respect the hell out of it, by the way, from a business perspective. It's one of the most successful movies of all time. It's very well made, again, from a business perspective. But as a movie, creatively, let's be honest, it has problems. From frigid Gamora, to no character arcs, to a cliffhanger ending that absolutely nobody believes. I'm still super excited, by the way, for Avengers Endgame. I think it's going to be just as fun a time and probably even more successful. And if anyone actually stays dead, though, because even Loki is coming back, or at least in purgatory on the streaming service, well, if anyone, again, actually legit stays dead in Avengers Endgame, well, I promise that it will end up higher up on my 2019 list. It might even end up higher because it'll be a better movie, or I'll have seen the whole story at that point. But right now, the first half is number 10. All right, number 9, Green Book. Higher than Avengers Infinity War. Well, first off, I'm sure many of you will be saying that about every single movie on this list, because they're all higher than Avengers Infinity War. But I also would like to ask, have you seen Green Book? And I'm sure most of you will say no, because the thing's a real clunker from a business perspective. Not, it's interesting. You want to get both things right, and here you have two movies that I think miss the mark on one side each. But anyway, Green Book is an absolutely fabulous film. As you can see, it's number 9 on my list. I just recently saw it, again, because not a lot of momentum. I think it's a movie a lot of people are going to discover, as they should. But some people who have seen Green Book, and you might be writing this down below right now or reading this comment from someone else, they've criticized it for being too light, not dark enough, not real enough. Interestingly, some of the same criticism that Love, Simon got. And Love, Simon, unfortunately, didn't make my list because I don't think it's as well crafted a film, as exciting a film as these final choices. But anyway, this is, Green Book is a feel-good movie, but that's the kind of feel-good movie that actually reaches the people, particularly in the middle of the country here in the United States, that need to be reached by this sort of movie. Not only does Green Book deal with race issues, and many of the scenes in the film are tragically still relevant today. In fact, the third act confrontation in Alabama, I don't want to give too much away, but it definitely brought Colin Kaepernick to mind. But the movie also depicts how some individuals here, Mahershala Ali's Don Shirley, might be impressively unique, but that also means they don't really fit in anywhere. The loneliness of the artist. And they're all different types of artists, by the way. It's not just like the traditional arts, but anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone who thinks differently, and is, very bravely walking a path alone, finds himself in this situation. I'm sure many of you could relate to the movie in this regard. Now, Green Book also points out that everyone should try to be their best, but also it's important to be part of the group. Really liked it. All right, number 8, Vice. I don't think I enjoyed this movie in the way that Adam McKay intended, but that's okay, because Adam McKay is my biggest problem with this movie. You know how actors who play villains say that they can't hate their character, they have to find the motivation and the viewpoint? Well, I think director-writers should have the same rule, because Adam McKay most certainly does not. He hates Dick Cheney, and I think it undercuts the film. It's just a little bit too personal in some ways. But speaking of actors, Christian Bale found a way to understand Dick Cheney, and as a result, it's one of the defining performances of his career, if not the defining performance of his career. And it allows him to finally achieve Meryl Streep status. I can't wait for this movie, hopefully for it to gain some momentum. You also have an amazing cast here that's at the top of their own game, backing Christian Bale up, plus an unusually frank look at how people at the highest levels operate behind closed doors. Now, if it weren't for McKay getting in his own way, this could have been another Patton, but still, even with McKay's personal baggage, it comes awfully close to the greatness of Patton. Have you not seen Patton? Go watch Patton. All right, number 7, Upgrade. It still made it. While Green Book is tragically underperforming at the box office, Upgrade was flat out ignored, which is a total travesty, as it's a brilliant sci-fi caper, as noteworthy for its storytelling as its low-budget filmmaking. I mean, what Leigh Whannell in his directorial debut, by the way, can do with under $5 million is amazing. And it's so nice. He and James Wan, of course, came to Hollywood together with Saw, and they're both on my list. I think that's great. Here, Leigh Whannell's star, Logan Marshall Green, also delivers, doing a lot of the VFX himself with his own body after studying with Cirque du Soleil. Too bad that Marshall Green and this movie look so much like mega hit Venom. Otherwise, this would have been the star turn that he and Whannell deserved. Number 6, A Quiet Place. But this movie was definitely a star turn, not only for Emily Blunt, giving her a much-needed box office win and a pretty bleak box office resume, but a star turn for John Krasinski, allowing him to finally make the very difficult jump from small screen success to big screen success. At a time when more and more people are content to be entertained at home, A Quiet Place created an experience not to be missed in theaters. Can a movie really be silent for almost its entire run, the entire story? And also, can everyone in the theater be silent? It was almost a challenge. But A Quiet Place is more than a gimmick. It has a clever script, thrilling direction, and a tense score. This is definitely a leader in the new prestige horror movement. Number 5, Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm sure A Star Is Born fans are like, so where's A Star Is Born? Unfortunately, it's not on my list. Because while I really enjoyed the performances in A Star Is Born, and I think some very talented individuals are showing off their craft there, I'm trying to be really careful. I can't say that I thought the film itself was great, especially the second half. I thought it had too many problems for me to put it on this list for the age. It was one of those. Is A Star Is Born one of those films, this 2018 version, one of the films that I feel everyone should see at some point? No, but I think it's important in the careers of Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper and in Hollywood history, so I gave it a little bit of a shout out anyway. But Bohemian Rhapsody is the complete package. Rami Malek is not only able to capture Freddie Mercury's magic, but still shine through himself as an actor. He doesn't disappear into the role. Sure, the directing is a bit pedestrian, and this film was, of course, plagued by horrible behind-the-scenes drama. Bryan Singer being fired, fired/quit. They can't agree on that, him and Fox. But, it was a real problem. And Bryan Singer, of course, brings his own baggage to the situation. But I think that Bohemian Rhapsody rises all above that. And the heart and soul of the movie makes up for everything, with the highlight besides Malek being its amazing music performances, capped off by a perfect recreation of Queen's iconic Live Aid performance. Argued by many to be the greatest live musical performance of all time, and I think after you see Bohemian Rhapsody, you understand why. A generation of Queen fans looked back fondly, while a new generation was also born. Then number 4, Into the Spiderverse. I love this movie. I continue to love it, even though I think its financial success isn't quite materializing. But since he made his comics debut, many accused Miles Morales of being a token character, a Peter Parker ripoff, which annoyed all of us who are Miles Morales fans. So it's very rewarding as a Miles Morales fan to see him finally get his due. Kind of. Again, those box office numbers are weaker than I would like. But Spider-Verse is more than just a debut for Miles Morales. It's not only the best Spider-Man movie ever made, and those who are seeing it, emphasis on those who are seeing it, but they all agree, highest cinema score ever for the franchise, but also it's an animated movie, because animation in the West has managed to get adult fans on the small screen, but it hasn't been able to do that on the big screen. Animation is still viewed as family fare, but that is changing, hopefully, with Spider-Verse, and that's very exciting. Number 3, though, Aquaman. Because while Spiderverse is revolutionary, Aquaman is simply operating at a whole other level. James Wan has been a Hollywood staple for a while now, first changing the course of the horror genre. He is the one who paved the way for that new prestige set of horror films like A Quiet Place and Get Out. But Wan now seems, after, forever changing horror, setting it on a new course, he now seems to have set his eyes on comic book movies. Oh boy! Aquaman is a modern filmmaking masterpiece. As I said in my review, a visual and audio symphony, and the most beautiful film ever made. Move over, Pandora! And this is actually a movie most people can get behind. Although, of course, you can't say that about Avatar. It made so much freaking money. But Aquaman shows that in the right hands, VFX can be used just as artistically as any other tool in a director's arsenal. Obviously, the VFX in Avatar were also very good, but they didn't have the artistic flourish that Aquaman's do. Now, people might be reluctant to admit the brilliance of Aquaman because it's a DC movie, for shame, but it's definitely a game changer. And I think as time passes, and more people just can't fight this tidal wave of a movie, hopefully that'll be recognized. Because I think Aquaman raises the bar yet again for what a superhero movie can be. Number 2, Mission Impossible Fallout. So after everything I just said about Aquaman, how can another movie top it? Well, Mission Impossible Fallout has everything that Aquaman does, but also elegance and legacy. Because if Wan had actors at the level of Tom Cruise, Aquaman might have come in ahead of Mission Impossible Fallout on my list. But Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie are at the top of their game, just as Wan is. And there's also something to be said about old-fashioned filmmaking. There's just a pull to it, a nostalgia pull. That's what the industry has been for so long. Because Cruise is doing his own stunts, the best stunts of his career. Even broke his ankle for the movie, but I can't factor that in too much into the final film. I think the film is more than that. It doesn't need that. That's just an interesting little, trivia piece about it. But Mission Impossible Fallout is an old-fashioned spy caper that shows that an old TV show, an old franchise, an older star, and also, again, old-fashioned filmmaking can still be competitive in today's spandex marketplace. That's really, really important and impressive. That Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise were able to do that. They borrow from comic book movies a little bit, like The Dark Knight. They have video game elements like the Halo jump, but they make them seem organic. And again, this very old-fashioned piece of filmmaking. Also, add to all of that a deliciously dark turn by Superman himself and globe-trotting locales. And while James Wan's filmmaking is sharp, Christopher McQuarrie's is even sharper. Then, the number 1 film of the year is Black Panther. It is still my favorite film of 2018, even though I would agree that it has similar third-act problems to Wonder Woman, and problems that Aquaman and Mission Impossible Fallout do not have. However, because just like Wonder Woman, a big part of Black Panther is representation. This is so important here. Representation not just for the Black community, but for the continent of Africa. See, the thing is, for too long, the Black conversation has been focused on slavery, having to overcome constant obstacles, discrimination, and that's a very important discussion, to be sure, that's represented in Black Panther by the character of Killmonger, an incredibly popular character, I think, because of what he taps into, that rage, that anger, the unjustness of it. But at the same time, Black Panther, it's very much like a transition movie, because Black Panther also puts the focus of the Black discussion to the future. Wakanda is that same shining city on a hill that America was founded to be. Now, of course, Wakanda is a fictional country, but as an idea, it is very, very real. And as I said when the movie opened and I reviewed it, this is the most important Black piece of entertainment since its roots and is enjoying the same critical and financial success. And I think place in history success. It's really, you're experiencing a moment. It's amazing. That's why it's Best Picture material. Plus, it's also good. It's a thrilling movie, because for those of you who are like, well, awards are nothing but political, to be honest with you, but I think Black Panther holds up as a piece of entertainment as well. It's got it's a thrilling story. It has a superhero with James Bond style, not to mention diplomatic immunity. And then it's got production design, costume design, score, and hair and makeup that all celebrate Africa. Again, are you starting to understand the Best Picture argument a little bit better now? All right, so that's my list of the best, the top 10 movies of 2018. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, both down below and again in that BTT poll. Be sure to vote by January 4th. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.